I watch the Thames wake beneath a glass skyline, where glass and steel keep everything moving cleanly. Rain turns the street into a mirror, and I keep still, while rain hisses and footsteps keep a steady beat. The same river once carried timber boats through smoke haze, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Light shivers on ripples, as if the city is breathing, and time feels close, even across centuries. At the old docks, ropes creak, and work never pauses, and chimney smoke writes gray lines across the sky. On today's promenade, runners pass, and I just observe, as small textures carry the whole story forward. From far back, London looks immense, calm, and awake, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. In 1600, rooftops crowd together under a low gray sky, as oars and bells keep the past close by. By candlelight, a map feels like a promise and a warning, and the river holds the change without speaking. Neon replaces flame, and the night keeps moving, while reflections stretch long and the river stays quiet. Old and new overlap, and I stand between both Londons, with soot in the air and timber underfoot. At dusk, the river holds the day's last color, where lanterns glow and streets feel tightly packed. Above the table, the map becomes a world in miniature, and the river holds the change without speaking. Now the city reads like a grid, clean and endless, as small textures carry the whole story forward. A narrow lane squeezes the sky into a thin ribbon, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Modern walls still funnel footsteps into tight corridors, where glass and steel keep everything moving cleanly. In the market haze, I watch hands trade cloth and food, and the river holds the change without speaking. Behind glass, coffee steam rises like a soft signal, while trains and bridges turn distance into minutes. Stone gates feel heavy, even when they are only memory, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Today the boundary is invisible, drawn by light and money, and time feels close, even across centuries. Old power sits in stone, and I watch from the shadows, with soot in the air and timber underfoot. Modern power glows at sunset, quiet and confident, as screens glow softly behind windows and doors. Lantern warmth spills onto wet wood and worn boots, while rain hisses and footsteps keep a steady beat. Along the south bank, reflections carry the crowd, and LEDs sketch bright trails across dark water. Smoke and chimneys thicken the air above old London, and chimney smoke writes gray lines across the sky. Clean rooftops stretch outward, sharp against cold sky, with soot in the air and timber underfoot. Pages turn, and history whispers without showing its face, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. A screen glows, and the room feels suddenly smaller, while trains and bridges turn distance into minutes. The Thames becomes a highway of oars and crossings, and the river holds the change without speaking. A ferry slides by, and the wake writes a bright line, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Rope fibers bite the hands, and the dock answers back, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Steel hardware shines, and the city looks engineered, and time feels close, even across centuries. Crates stack high, and the warehouse breathes damp air, and the river holds the change without speaking. Glass balconies shimmer, like water held upright, and LEDs sketch bright trails across dark water. At water level, the oar lifts spray into the light, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Under the bridge, the river runs smooth and sure, and time feels close, even across centuries. Near the arches, the current churns like a warning, and the river holds the change without speaking. On calm water, the skyline looks almost unreal, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Barrels roll past, and I keep my distance, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Cyclists streak by, and I stay anchored to the rail, and time feels close, even across centuries. Net by net, the river's work is patient and precise, and the river holds the change without speaking. Fishing lines hang, and the city blurs into bokeh, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Winter bites the bank, and the old world feels closer, as oars and bells keep the past close by. Modern winter softens into pastel, and I exhale, and leads sketch bright trails across dark water. Lanterns float on black water, quiet and wary, and the city glows low, patient and awake. Leads draw long trails, and the night turns elegant, while reflections stretch long and the river stays quiet. Goods and boats layer the scene like a living diagram, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. The river becomes a stage, and the crowd becomes light, and time feels close, even across centuries. Reflections sparkle, and the witness stays small, and the river holds the change without speaking. Stone texture proves the city is real under the gloss, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Old London Bridge rises like a crowded street over water, with soot in the air and timber underfoot. Inside, the passage narrows, and lanterns guide the eye, while reflections stretch long and the river stays quiet. Below, the arches squeeze the river into violent foam, and the river holds the change without speaking. I walk the corridor slowly, hearing wood and wind, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Carts jam the span, and the bridge becomes a city, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. In a small chapel corner, the hush feels heavy, and time feels close, even across centuries. Now the bridge is open air, clean lines, open breath, and the river holds the change without speaking. Tourists lift phones, and the moment becomes a souvenir, as small textures carry the whole story forward. I look down, and the Thames keeps its steady pace, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Old walls hide the river, and the air feels close, and chimney smoke writes gray lines across the sky. Then the space opens, and the present rushes in, and the river holds the change without speaking. Night on the old bridge is dark, warm, and tight, as shadows deepen and the skyline holds its breath. Night on the new bridge is cool, bright, and wide, and the city glows low, patient, and awake. A boat noses toward the arch, and the water argues, and time feels close, even across centuries. Under modern spans, navigation feels effortless, as the city hums steady, modern, and controlled. In a shop window, warmth glows through small objects, as small textures carry the whole story forward. On glass storefronts, the city slides like a film, as screens glow softly behind windows and doors. From above, old rooftops smoke, as if the city burns, as oars and bells keep the past close by. From above, modern decks look calm and deliberate, and leads sketch bright trails across dark water. Stone becomes steel, and my fingers feel the change, as small textures carry the whole story forward. At dawn, the bridge empties, and silence returns, while the river brightens and the air turns clear. At old dawn, mist swallows edges and softens fear, and the first light settles gently on the water. The alley pulls me forward, tight and damp, and the river holds the change without speaking. The neon alley answers back, sharp and reflective, as shadows deepen and the skyline holds its breath. Firelight paints beams, and time smells like smoke, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Window light paints walls, and time feels clean, and time feels close, even across centuries. Fish and water gleam under cold market daylight, where lanterns glow and streets feel tightly packed. Steam and color bloom in the modern market's heat, while trains and bridges turn distance into minutes. A flame trembles, and shadows breathe around it, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. A street lamp blooms and rain becomes glitter, while rain hisses and footsteps keep a steady beat. Mud swallows boots, and every step is effort, and the river holds the change without speaking. Rain beads on fabric, and the city keeps flowing, as puddles copy every light and passing shape. Some routines stay discreet, carried through narrow lanes, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Some routines are mechanical, quiet, and orderly, and time feels close, even across centuries. A child darts through bustle, and I watch safely, and the river holds the change without speaking. A family crosses calmly, and the world feels gentler, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Chimneys crowd the horizon, and haze thickens the air, where lanterns glow and streets feel tightly packed. Terraces open to sky, and air feels clearer, and time feels close, even across centuries. Wool scratches the hand, and the texture holds a story, while cramped lanes press every sound much nearer. Synthetic fabric shines, and droplets sit like jewels, as small textures carry the whole story forward. At the well, water is a meeting place, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. At the tap, water is a certainty, and time feels close, even across centuries. A hanging sign swings, and night listens, and the city glows, low, patient, and awake. Traffic bokeh pulses, and night never sleeps, while reflections stretch long and the river stays quiet. Smoke drifts upward, and sunlight cuts through it, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Steam rises between towers, and light turns cinematic, and time feels close, even across centuries. Ink lines form slowly, guided by steady hands, and the river holds the change without speaking. Keys click softly, guided by the same intention, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Coins clatter, and exchange feels personal, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. A quiet beep, and exchange becomes invisible, and time feels close, even across centuries. Tools ring in a workshop, shaping rough materials, and the river holds the change without speaking. Machines hum in a workspace, shaping precise parts, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Cloth folds and measures, turning need into clothing, as oars and bells keep the past close by. Window mannequins gleam, turning style into signal, and time feels close, even across centuries. Barrels and backs move, and the river feeds the city, and the river holds the change without speaking. Boxes and vans move, and the streets feed the city, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Papers change hands, and the air tightens, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Glass halls reflect money.com and silent, while trains and bridges turn distance into minutes. Coffee houses gather ideas in smoke and murmurs, and the river holds the change without speaking. Cafes gather screens and light and steam, as the city hums, steady, modern, and controlled. Masts cut the sky, promising distance and risk, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Cranes cut the sky, promising height and speed, and time feels close, even across centuries. Dust beams slice the warehouse, and time slows, and the river holds the change without speaking. Glass walls slice the meeting room and time schedules, and LEDs sketch bright trails across dark water. A crowd leans in, and value becomes a spectacle, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. LED streaks imply speed, and attention becomes currency, as shadows deepen and the skyline holds its breath. A compass points, and routes become power, and the river holds the change without speaking. Glowing gates suggest borders, even without walls, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Hands inspect crates, and trust feels heavy, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Turnstiles click, and flow becomes controlled, and the city glows low, patient and awake. One street holds wealth, the next holds shadow, with soot in the air and timber underfoot. One skyline shines, and another corner waits, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Worn shoes press cobbles, and the city pushes back, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Polished shoes step forward, and the city reflects, and time feels close, even across centuries. Food is survival here, simple and close, and the river holds the change without speaking. Food is culture here, bright and shared, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Cold tables glisten, and the market feels raw, where lanterns glow and streets feel tightly packed. Bright aisles stretch, and the market feels endless, and time feels close, even across centuries. Flower dust glows, and warmth gathers quietly, and the river holds the change without speaking. Glass cases gleam, and warmth is curated, as the city hums steady, modern, and controlled. A tavern table holds light in tired hands, with soot in the air and timber underfoot. A restaurant table holds light and a softer noise, where lanterns glow and streets feel tightly packed. Stalls close, and the day folds itself away, as oars and bells keep the past close by. Displays shine, and the day keeps selling color, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Coins weigh in palms, and choices feel immediate, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Taps beep, and choices disappear into systems, and time feels close, even across centuries. Smoke and fire feed the lane with harsh warmth, and the river holds the change without speaking. Neon and steam feed the street with electric warmth, and the city glows low, patient, and awake. The mood turns serious, and the river keeps watching, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. The mood turns bright, and the city keeps singing, and time feels close, even across centuries. Hooves and wheels fight mud, and progress is slow, and the river holds the change without speaking. Buses and bikes glide, and progress is choreographed, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Cloaks move like waves across the bridge, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Jackets move like waves across the crosswalk, and time feels close, even across centuries. Lantern pools make shadows feel alive, while reflections stretch long and the river stays quiet. Tunnel glow makes shadows feel modern, where glass and steel keep everything moving cleanly. A hoof splashes, and the street answers with mud, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. A train wheel sings, and the tunnel answers with steel, as puddles copy every light and passing shape. Leather straps tighten, and travel looks uncertain, and the river holds the change without speaking. Doors close, and travel becomes routine, as small textures carry the whole story forward. The old pace is human, breath by breath, with soot in the air and timber underfoot. The new pace is a blur, held by architecture, and time feels close, even across centuries. Stairs descend, and torchlight loses the walls, and the river holds the change without speaking. Escalators descend, and the city becomes vertical, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Headlights bloom, and the platform trembles slightly, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Inside, tunnel lights streak like quiet lightning, and time feels close, even across centuries. Horse pull, and the river pulls back, and the river holds the change without speaking. Ramps guide, and the river welcomes back, as small textures carry the whole story forward. A messenger runs, and urgency fills the lane, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Beep by beep, the modern gate counts passage, as the city hums steady, modern, and controlled. Light streaks turn motion into an abstract memory, and the river holds the change without speaking. Smoke and mist rhyme, and time folds over itself, and the first light settles gently on the water. A crowd gathers, and news becomes a shared gravity, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. A crowd scrolls, and news becomes private gravity, and time feels close, even across centuries. Papers stack, and ink dries into record, and the river holds the change without speaking. Billboards glow, and images replace words, as small textures carry the whole story forward. In tavern corners, secrets sit close to candlelight, where lanterns glow and streets feel tightly packed. In lit rooms, secrets sit close to screens, while trains and bridges turn distance into minutes. Wax seals a message, making distance feel possible, while cramped lanes press every sound much nearer. A tap sends a message, making distance vanish, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Fog empties the street, and silence becomes loud, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Reflections multiply, and certainty becomes fragile, and time feels close, even across centuries. On the steps, I let the river slow my thoughts, and the river holds the change without speaking. At the playhouse door, anticipation thickens the air, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Inside, the stage glow pulls every eye forward, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. On the rainy avenue, theater lights blur into motion, while rain hisses and footsteps keep a steady beat. In the lobby, warmth returns through faces and glass, as screens glow softly behind windows and doors. In the tavern, music lives in small gestures, as oars and bells keep the past close by. In the arena, music lives in light and thunder, while I stay unseen and let the scene decide. Candlelight dissolves into beams, and the heart follows, and time feels close, even across centuries. Embers pulse, and danger is only remembered, and the river holds the change without speaking. Sprinkler metal gleams, and danger is planned for, as small textures carry the whole story forward. A quiet room holds grief without showing it, as oars and bells keep the past close by. A corridor holds grief in clean, bright lines, while cramped lanes press every sound much nearer. Hands lift beams, and hope looks like work, and the river holds the change without speaking. Hands gather bags, and hope looks like care, as small textures carry the whole story forward. Old boats overlay new towers, and the river unites them, where lanterns glow and streets feel tightly packed. I watch the bridges fade, and London keeps becoming, and time feels close, even across centuries. If there's another city, another moment in time, or a historic scene you'd like to see brought back to life, tell me in the comments. I'd love to keep building this journey into the past with you. Once again, thank you so much.